evening, everybody. It's never a dull day, is it? It's a Monday, and we are off to a flying start with this week. Last week was huge. I met with a member of Parliament. If you haven't watched that stream yet, go and check it out. And this week, it's only Monday, and we've already got news to share. Today, I went to an East Grinstead Town Council meeting in person, and boy, did I have a good time. Before we jump into it, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got Buffy Lynn, and you looked fantastic while doing so, my friend. Thank you. Mark the Dorset SP says, "Evening, Alex. Looking forward to this one. Is that Janet in the photo?" Hi, Janet. Yeah, exactly. We love Janet on this channel. Janet, we know you watch these, so hi, Janet. It was lovely to see you earlier today. Everybody show some love for Janet in the chat. Say hi, Janet. Hi, Osa. Barbara Bornholt is here. Hello, Alex. Sean says hello. Fangirl Jen says hi, Alex. Hello, thank you so much. Indigo Twin, hi, Alex. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Okay, so before we jump into how the council meeting went, I need to do a little bit of a preface, because every time I mention a Scientologist name or show a picture of them, I get a privacy complaint from Scientology's lawyer, because they claim that showing someone's face on a YouTube channel or saying their name is a breach of YouTube's privacy guidelines, which is not the case. However, I'm going to preface this because this is an article in The Guardian, a very well-established news organisation, one of the largest newspapers in the UK. This was published on the 3rd of February 2024, so just under a year old. It's about Narconon, the Scientology's UK drug rehabilitation centre, and we covered this story at the time. But if you scroll down, there's a picture of L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. And if you keep going, there's a picture here of this lady, and it says Janet, the managing director of Scientology UK. So saying this person's name and showing her face is out there already in the public domain. It's on a newspaper. This is her. She is the head of OSA in the United Kingdom, and that means it's her responsibility to attack and fair game critics and former members. It's her job to speak publicly as being the public face of Scientology in the UK. So she's a public figure, and that is evidenced by the article I just showed on The Guardian. So today at the East Grinstead Town Council meeting, I had the pleasure of sitting next to Ms. at the council meeting. I walked in and it was quite a full meeting. The council were giving a check to a bunch of local charities and sports groups. So there were lots of representatives from there, and there were also a number of public people who just wanted to participate in the meeting and watch it. And so it was a full room. Now, I took a seat opposite Janet on the other side of the room because I wanted to make sure that, I was on the other side of the room to her, considering she is personally responsible for the abuse that is going on against me right now. She is directing the harassment and the intimidation tactics. It comes under her purview as the head of Scientology in the UK. So I wanted to sit on the other side of the room. However, the leader of the council, Councillor Farron, came up to me and said I should sit over on the other side, and she put a chair next to Janet and directed me to sit next to her. So I jumped at the opportunity and I said, "Hi, Janet, so good to see you again." The last time I saw Janet was at the IAS protest in October, when she was standing at the gates of St. Hill, and she was calling the police and saying that we were harassing people, and the police went over and said they're not harassing anybody, they're just exercising their right to protest. So that was the last time I saw Janet. I see her every year at the, well, I say every year, there's only been 2 protests in the last 5 years outside St. Hill, but I saw her the year just gone by and the year before that. Before that point in time, the last time I saw Janet was when I was a staff member at the Church of Scientology in London. There was a Supreme Court case going on at the time where two of my former colleagues wanted Scientology to be recognised as a place of worship. So they wanted to get married in the chapel at London Org. And so Janet made regular trips to the London Org to handle all the legal stuff that was going on around then. So we were colleagues once upon a time. That was the last time I saw her before I became a suppressive person. So I thought it was quite funny to sit next to her, and I managed to take this picture, which you will have seen as the thumbnail of this video. This is me with Janet at the council meeting. And again, I want to preface this by saying she's a public figure. Her picture and name are out there on publicly available documents on Companies House and in the media, like The Guardian, for example, the article I just showed. And she is the public-facing representative of the Church of Scientology in the UK. Janet knew I was taking the picture because I said hello to her and I said I'm going to take a selfie, and she didn't get up and leave or walk away or say no. She just sat there like she currently is. So everybody say, "Hi, Janet. Hi, Janet. Hi, Osa." Yeah, I thought that was quite funny. Highlight of my evening. So far, highlight of my year, I've got to say. You could, yeah, SP Crusader Leany, you couldn't make it up. Exactly. There we go. Christy Edgicon saying, yeah, here we go. Hi, Janet. There we go. Precisely. But the question is, why was Janet there? Janet, as far as I'm aware, has not been to an East Grinstead Town Council meeting before. Scientology usually send a representative to be there in the public participation part. They never really say anything, but they just are there to witness, especially now that I'm asking questions and there are people going to the council meetings to ask about the council's relationship with Scientology. But they normally send someone called Liz. Again, I won't say the last name, but she is the PPRO UK, so L. Ron Hubbard's personal communicator, basically. Well, not communicator, but communications PR person. She normally goes, and she's the one in charge of safe pointing the council, building relationships with councillors and mayors to try and make Scientology look more favourable in the local area. She normally goes, or Graham, the other spokesperson for Scientology in the UK. Now, this is the first time I'm aware of that Janet has actually been to an East Grinstead Town Council meeting. Now, why would the head of Scientology in the United Kingdom go to the East Grinstead Town Council meeting when she's never been to one before? Now, I hazard a guess that this is because they knew I was going to be there. I gave the council the heads up on Friday that I was going to be attending the council meeting, and this morning I had a bit of back and forth with the clerk, and I said I'd like to ask a question. Now, normally you don't have to send your question in advance. You don't have to tell them what your question is. You just have to say that I would like to ask a question. They verify that it is a question related to an item on the agenda, and then you're free to ask your question at the meeting. The mayor may or may not answer the question straight away. The mayor may direct you to get an answer in writing after the meeting, but nonetheless, you have the opportunity to ask the question. Now, they knew that I was going this morning, and somehow Scientology got wind that I was going to this meeting because Janet was there. There is no other reason that I can see for this particular person to go to this council meeting other than she knew in advance that I was going to be there. And what an honor to be able to sit next to her and say hello to her. A lot of you may be wondering, what did she say? Well, I just said, "Hi, Janet, lovely to see you again." And she went, "Huh." And that was it. That's all I got from her from the whole meeting. She didn't say anything. She just sat there. She avoided eye contact with me for the entire meeting. She kept checking her watch, actually. It's almost like she was succumbing to MEST, which is matter, energy, space, and time. Now, if you're an OT, an operating thetan in Scientology, you're supposed to be at cause over matter, energy, space, and time. Meaning you are, unleashing your godlike powers as a theta, a spiritual being. So for someone who is supposedly at that level in Scientology, she certainly was keeping an eye on her watch for a lot of the meeting. It's almost like she didn't want to be there. But nonetheless, we sat there and we watched the meeting progress. Now, when it got to public questions, I stood up and said, I have a question. And I asked, in light of, so let's just rewind a little bit. A while ago, there was a bit of back and forth with East Grinstead Town Council. They labelled me a vexatious bully on a letterheaded paper, and that was because I had submitted a Freedom of Information Act request asking for some documents. Now, I took this to the Information Commissioner's office, and the ICO got back to me, and they did an investigation, and they ruled that my FOI request was not vexatious and ordered the council to hand over the documents that I had requested. So at the last council meeting, having got that information, I asked the mayor if he would therefore apologise for the council's labelling me as a vexatious bully in light of the Information Commissioner deciding that my request was not vexatious. And the mayor declined. He said, no, the Information Commissioner's office have not asked me or the council to issue an apology, so therefore we're not going to. So I then wrote to the Information Commissioner, and that is where we are at today. That's what I asked at the council meeting today. I said, I've since spoken to the Information Commissioner, who has advised that the ICO do not have powers to instruct a council to issue an apology. So I asked the mayor, in light of that, would the mayor retract his previous answer and maybe reassess his answer and now issue an apology? Or if not, would he advise on why, and would he advise on how I can escalate the issue? Now, the mayor said, thank you, I'm not going to answer that. I will get back to you. And I said, thank you very much, no problem. And I sat down. Stephen Jones, who is a long-time activist, former Scientologist who was staff at St. Hill, he came with me to the meeting, and he stood up and he asked whether... what did he ask? He asked about, that was it. He said, would the council consider meeting with him and other ex-Scientologists so that they could hear our concerns and speak to survivors of abuse so that they can understand why we are concerned about the Church of Scientology in the UK? And the mayor said, thank you for your question. I will get back to you. So we will have to wait and see what they say. However, that is an offer that that has been in existence for a very long time. It was almost exactly a year ago that I first spoke at an East Grinstead Town Council meeting, and I offered the mayor in the months leading up to that via email to get together with council. All I'm asking for at that time was to sit with the council for an hour and brief them on Scientology's tactics, on the abuse that I suffered and other people suffered, and enlighten them and not ask them to make any judgments or take any action, but just to brief them on why this is an important issue. And considering that councillors and mayors have no issue going to Scientology's events and spending time on their premises, I think it's only fair that they give the ex-Scientologists, the activists, the abuse survivors, at least an hour of their time just to hear us out. Now, I was told in response to when I asked that question to shut up, to stop talking about it on social media, and then I was labelled a vexatious bully, which is why I'm now asking for an apology. But Stephen Jones, quite rightfully, he said, would you meet with me and some other survivors of abuse and hear us out? So we shall wait and see. I'm not very hopeful given East Grinstead Town Council's track record and what also happened later on at the meeting. So having said previously that you don't have to give advance warning of the question you're going to ask, you can just show up and ask it as long as you let them know that you are going to be there. Today, last minute, after the agenda had been published, because the agenda for these meetings is published a couple of days usually in advance, so it's laid out what they're going to talk about, this thing wasn't on the agenda. It took everybody by surprise. It was added last minute today, after the publication of the agenda, and when it got to the item, they were talking about updating their standing orders, policies and procedures, that sort of thing. And the mayor announced that he would like to propose an amendment to the standing orders, which requires members of the public to give at least 24 hours notice of the question that they wish to ask during public question time. They have to supply this within 24 hours, and then it will be reviewed. That item was not on the agenda this morning. it was after I had my email correspondence with the clerk, because I had refused to give advance notice of the question that I wanted to ask, because I didn't have to, according to the standing orders. So that was kind of worrying, that they are suppressing or limiting people's right to ask questions at council meetings in response to one person who is simply asking to be heard, and who has issues with abuse in Scientology. So they've made an amendment to the way the council operates in response to in a way that protects the Church of Scientology, which is why it's an issue. And it just goes to show how entwined this council are with the Church of Scientology, furthered by the end of the meeting. Now, at the end of an East Grinstead Town Council meeting, members of the public are invited into the mayor's parlour, which is the room next door to the council chamber where these meetings are held. And then there is, after the meeting, a kind of informal chit chat with tea and coffee. I believe there's a couple of bottles of wine there. And it's just a debrief, and it's a chance for everyone to socially get together and discuss the meeting that has just been had. Now, this is the first time I've been to an East Grinstead Town Council meeting in person. So I've never been invited to this before. It's something completely new to me, but it is something that happens at every council meeting. And generally, all members of the public who are there at the end of the meeting, who ask questions or who are just observing, are invited into the mayor's parlour. The mayor normally announces this to everybody in the room. He says, after the meeting's closed, he then invites everybody to the parlour for a drink. Now, me and Stephen hung around for a little bit, and people started filtering into the mayor's parlour, and the mayor, instead of announcing it, was going around telling people individually, quietly in their rear, they can go to the mayor's parlour, but did not invite me or Stephen. Now, you know, I'm not sat here just complaining we didn't get an invite, but the reason it's a problem is because there were only 4 members of the public at the end of this meeting, 2 of which were representatives of the Church of Scientology, one of which was Janet, and the other 2 were ex-Scientologists. Now, the only 2 people that were invited to the mayor's parlour for a drink afterwards were the Scientology representatives, Janet and the other lady, Liz. That is problematic because historically, every member of the public is invited, and the only 2 people who were not invited were the 2 people who are simply calling for an end to abuse inside Scientology and who are raising very legitimate, valid concerns about the close relationship Scientology have with East Grinstead Town Council, as evidenced by the fact that a large news organisation, the Daily Mail, covered this story last year in a double-page spread feature, and it was broadcast all over the world that East Grinstead Town Council have a questionable relationship. So there's public interest here, there's real public concern, and in response, the mayor invites only Scientology's representatives to the mayor's parlour for a drink afterwards. Now, if that's not concerning, I don't know what is. But that's kind of it in terms of an update from me. I just wanted to bring you that news. I thought it was hilarious. I got the chance to sit next to Janet. Hi, Janet. We love Janet on this channel. Always approach things with kindness and compassion. I said it was really lovely to see her. And it was, even though she is one of my abusers. She is the one directing all of the harassment because that comes under her purview as head of OSA in the UK. Let's have a little look at some of these comments. SP Crusader says, please remember to hit the like button, please. Yes, thank you. That's the point. So I stand up to bullies. I'm not the sort of person that backs down, and I'm certainly not going to back down when people are currently being abused by Scientology at the UK headquarters, and when the solution is so simple. Scientology, if you just stop abusing your members, if you stop forcing families to disconnect, if you stop forcing people to have abortions, if you stop this horrible harassment of critics and former members, then I go away, because that's all I'm asking for. I have no problem with people who choose to be Scientologists, who want to follow their so-called scriptures or religious scriptures of L. Ron Hubbard. Completely their choice. I may disagree with your beliefs, but it's your right to practice your religion, and I will defend that right. I defend your freedom of belief. But what you don't have a right to do is abuse people, and it's the behavior that I'm standing up against, and the solution is to simply stop doing that behavior. And when it comes to East Grinstead Town Council, my question is, why do you think it's appropriate for the mayor to go to St. Hill to turn on their Christmas lights and then forget to include it in the official list of the mayor's engagements? Why do you think it's appropriate to go to Scientology events but not listen to the people who are raising very valid and serious concerns about the abuse they suffered inside this organization? The solution is, and has been for the whole of the last year, to simply sit down with us for an hour and hear us out. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to act. You don't have to say anything necessarily, but just let us talk to you about why this is a concern. Very simple solution. And for some reason, we're not getting it. And that just goes to show how close their relationship is with Scientology, in my mind. Bok Buddy, question for the mayor. Will future meetings with Scientology be scheduled by Janet calling his personal cell phone to keep it off the publicly posted schedule of events? Exactly. Very, very valid question. Indigo Twin comment, do you think they are trying to put obstacles in your way on purpose, hoping you'll give up if they make it harder and harder for you to protest and or ask your questions? That is 100% what Scientology are trying to do. Their policy, the modus operandi of OSA, the Office of Special Affairs, is divide and distract. They want to throw as many obstacles in my way to stop me doing what I'm doing, and it's simply not going to work. I'm the sort of person that carries on fighting for those whose voice has been taken away, and I will continue doing so until we reach one of those resolutions. For example, with the council, meet with us. Listen to us, hear us out, and I will stop hassling. Well, I wouldn't say I'm hassling the council, but I will stop going to council meetings because there will be no need to, because we have reached the outcome that we want, which is to speak to them about our concerns. Scientology, if you stop abusing people, then I won't need to protest, because all I'm protesting is the abuse. So really, really simple in my mind anyway. Let's carry on. Question, Rachel Harris, is the PSPO still going ahead or not? Very good question. So PSPO is Public Spaces Protection Order. In light of the protest last year in October, Scientology filed for a PSPO to be put in place with Mid Sussex District Council. What that would mean is banning protesting outside Scientology's headquarters in St. Hill. They claim that we are causing a continued, ongoing, non-stop disruption outside their place of worship, and therefore the protests should be banned. That process is a very lengthy process. There was a evidence gathering period in which the council observers were at the protest, and they took video. I think the police took video footage. The council observers took notes and watched us and made sure they recorded everything that was going on. It then went into an opportunity for those who attended the protest to give their thoughts, and for Scientologists who attended the event to give their thoughts, and members of public too. Now, that evidence gathering portion of the process closed in December, I think it was, or November. And now the council are reviewing all of this evidence, and they are going to come up with a decision as to whether or not they should proceed with the Public Spaces Protection Order. That is something that won't happen for some time. I understand that that is still going on. Based on my correspondence with the council just last week, it's likely to take several weeks more, if not several months more, and we won't get an answer until the summer, likely, about whether we will be allowed to protest again outside St. Hill. But the key point is, in order for a PSPO to be put in place, there needs to be persistent, ongoing disruption. Now, there have been 2 protests in the last 5 years outside St. Hill, and I don't see how that justifies the criteria needed to implement a PSPO. But nonetheless, we should have an update in the summer. But if I do have an update before then, I will, of course, let you all know. Rachel Harris, the ball is in Scientology's corner. They stop the abuse and you go away. Yeah, exactly. Simple. Mark the Dorset SP, safe pointing at its best, undue influence of public office. Yeah, and that's why we're concerned when it comes to OSA and East Grinstead Town Council's relationship. Bok Buddy, question, any update on the suppressive hedges? Yes, kind of, but also kind of not. So again, for those of you who are new to the channel, have no idea what I'm talking about. Scientology planted a row of hedging. They're actually trees, but they're cut to make it look like a hedge. And behind that, they installed a fence on the piece of public land next to the road opposite their entrance. It's not their land, it's council land, it's public land. And they installed this without permission, including a curbing that goes along the edge of the road. Now, I complained to the council and said, look, this is not the council's, this is not Scientology's land. And actually, it makes it unsafe for people who are walking up the road because it's blocking the right of way, the footpath. And it would be a lot safer for us to stand there and protest rather than where we actually were if those obstructions weren't there. The council sent an inspector to go and have a look at it, and they found that it was dangerous to have this where it is because the curbing has been dislodged and it may enter the road, which makes it dangerous for road users. A car might crash into it. And also the way that the trees are planted along the road, over time the roots will grow under the road and they will disrupt the road surface, causing damage to the road. So the council ordered Scientology remove the hedging and the fencing, and Scientology refused to do so. Now, my understanding as it currently stands is that the council are ongoing with this issue. Highways are dealing with some sort of dispute over whether Scientology have permission or not to do it. But the last update I heard was that the Highways Authority were firm in their stance and they will be removing it in the new year, which is now. So waiting for an update on it. I'll keep you in the loop, but yes, I would love to be there on the day that gets removed, and you can be sure I'll be live streaming it because that'll be quite fun to watch. Rachel Harris, can you not for FOI the police footage is evidence you didn't harass people? Yes, absolutely. At the moment it's all protected because it's being considered as part of the PSPO, so it's not something we can get our hands on right now, but it is something that has all been submitted to the council because the police were present the whole time recording footage for the purposes of the PSPO. We also had our live streams going and video footage that the protesters have submitted and the council observers watching the protest, and there was no evidence of any harassment or anything like that going on. There were no arrests, there were no warnings, and the police actually remarked that it was one of the most peaceful protests that they have ever been to. That has all been submitted as evidence, and I'm sure after the PSPO process all of that will come out into the public domain one way or another. Church of Satirology, it appears that the East Grinstead Town Council are showing favour to an organisation instead of being impartial. Isn't this against their code of conduct? Yeah, very valid question. Why is it appropriate for the mayor to spend several hours every year going to Scientology events, speaking with Scientology's representatives in the mayor's parlour, and so on and so forth, and texting or otherwise communicating with Scientology, not on official channels, and then on the flip side, not have any correspondence whatsoever with those who are calling for an end to the abuse in the organisation and who are simply asking for an apology for the East Grinstead Town Council's mischaracterisation of us as vexatious bullies. It does seem slightly biased, if you ask me, and that is why it's concerning. And that is exactly why we're asking these questions, because East Grinstead Town Council should fairly represent everybody, not just Scientology. And so far, they have spent a greater proportion of time with Scientology than they have those who have been abused by it. In fact, those who have been abused by it have actually been asked to shut up and stop talking about it on social media because it looks bad for the council. There is a real public interest in this issue, and that is well evidenced by the press and media covering it. And so it's concerning. That's all I can say. Helen Gore, lovely picture of you and that woman just saying hi to Janet. Nice to see you all. Yes, exactly. Hello, Janet, once again. All right, guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for joining. I will keep you in the loop as things develop. There is a big week ahead of us. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I can't wait to bring more news to you. I'll keep you in the loop. And as soon as East Grinstead Town Council post their video recording of today's meeting, of course, I will announce that on my channel here too and share that with you guys. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to support my activism and everything that we're doing as protesters and help support the channel, please consider using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description down below. There's also PayPal, that sort of stuff. But the best way of supporting this movement of activists here in the UK is liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. As soon as the live stream finishes, leave a comment underneath the video. That helps push it out to more people. And also, please share stuff on social media and write to your local representatives, your members of parliament, your councillors, expressing your concerns about Scientology, because only that way will we be able to affect change. So thank you for watching. Especially thank you to Janet, who I know you'll probably be watching this, if not live, later on today. It was lovely to see you again. And as always, I'm on war footing and I'm not fucking about.